Imagine this. You wake up one morning, step outside, and something feels wrong. The air is dry. The smell of salt is gone. You look towards the horizon, and the oceans are missing. No waves, no water, just endless cracks of dry land where the sea once lived. What would happen to our planet if the ocean suddenly dried up? How would life survive? What would happen to the weather, to animals, to us? In this video, we'll uncover step by step how Earth would completely change if the oceans disappeared forever.
Immediate effects. First few days, weeks.
The very first victims would be the creatures of the sea. Fish, dolphins, and even the largest whales would have nowhere to live. Within days, the oceans would become giant graveyards full of lifeless bodies. Coastal cities would turn into foul-smelling wastelands. The beaches we once loved would now be covered with dry sand, dead corals, and rotting sea life. And then, global trade would collapse. Ships could no longer sail. Ports would be useless. Millions of jobs and entire economies that depend on the ocean would vanish overnight.
Climate impact. Few months.
As the oceans vanish, the leftover water would rise into the skies. The atmosphere would be filled with enormous amounts of water vapor. At first, this would trigger unstoppable storms, violent hurricanes, and endless floods across the land. But soon, the rain would end. Without oceans to refill the clouds, the earth would begin to dry out. Rivers would shrink, lakes would disappear, and the planet would slowly transform into a massive desert. The climate would go out of balance. Summers would become hotter than ever, and winters would grow brutally cold. Without the oceans to keep temperatures steady, Earth would turn into a land of extremes.
Human civilization.
Without oceans, rain would almost disappear. Farmlands would dry up and crops would fail. Farmers could no longer grow wheat, rice, or corn. Slowly, our food supply would collapse. Next comes the water crisis. With no fresh rain, rivers and lakes would dry. Billions of people would struggle to find even a glass of drinking water. Coastal cities, once full of life, would turn into empty ghost towns. Millions of families would be forced to leave their homes in search of water and food. But where would they go? Wars would break out between nations, not for oil or gold, but for the most precious resource of all, fresh water.
Long-term effects. Hundreds, thousands of years.
The oceans do more than just give us water. They are the lungs of our planet. Tiny plants in the sea, called phytoplankton, create most of the oxygen we breathe. Without oceans, this oxygen cycle would collapse. Slowly, the air would become harder and harder to breathe. At the same time, carbon dioxide would rise unchecked. With no oceans to absorb it, Earth would heat up like a giant oven. Glaciers would vanish, the ground would crack, and wildfires would spread across the continents. Over centuries, our blue planet would lose its color. Earth would no longer be green and full of life. Instead, it would turn into a dry, barren world, a desert planet much like Venus.
So what would happen if the oceans dried up? There would be no rain, no food, no oxygen, and no life left on Earth.
The truth is simple. The oceans are the heartbeat of our planet. If they die, we die. That's why we must protect them. Every drop matters. Every action counts. Let's save our oceans before it's too late.
If you like my video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos.